Oh, today we're going to be talking about why habit science is bullshit. Or to say it more properly, why it doesn't really help you change your behavior in a sustainable way. First, the science is too cerebral and surface. What I mean by this is that it talks a lot about dopamine, serotonin, neurotransmitters, the wiring of your brain, a lot of these different very technical scientific jargon and terminology. I've read Atomic Habits or The Power of Habits or Dr. Huberman's lab, where they talk about the neuroscience behind behavior and why we do certain things, right? And to a certain extent, understanding the physiological reactions or processes that are happening internally in your mind, causing the behaviors that you're trying to change, can be helpful to a certain degree. Some people need a more cerebral approach to habit transformation. But in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I'm not saying this is fact, but just my opinion, it is not powerful enough to maintain behavior over a long period of time. And the reason why that is, like I just said, first off, is that it's too surface. An example I'll provide is think about sex and love. Imagine you're trying to figure out what love feels like, especially during an act like sex. Like, what does sex feel like? What does making love feel like? You're trying to explain it to a child or to another person who's never had sex. But in this example, let's use a child, right? A naive, innocent young person. It would not really do the act of sex and love and connection. It wouldn't do that a lot of justice if you just talked about the fact that, you release a lot of dopamine when you finish, and then you have estrogen levels altering, or oxytocin gets released, the connective chemical that makes you feel loved and connected with the other person, blah, 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 science, surface. The kid's gonna look at you like, what the fuck are you even talking about? And even somebody who understands fully what you're talking about is not gonna be able to fully understand what it feels like to be in love, to have sex, and to finish orgasm. And I can assure you too, that while you're having sex, while you're orgasming, while you're connecting with somebody on that level, you're not thinking, oh wow, during this moment, I'm releasing a lot of dopamine, and that's why I'm looking at her like I wanna do anything for her, or that's why I'm looking at him like he's gonna give me the world. Like, that stuff's not running through your mind. What's running through your mind is a narrative, a story unfolding of I am with him and he is with me, and whatever, your partner's gender is, you get the point of there is this overarching narrative and story that's playing out in your mind about what this all means. What does this incredible experience and connection of love and sex and connection and harmony and, chemistry, right? They call it chemistry, but we're not thinking about chemistry when we're doing things that involve chemistry, at least in a romantic sense, right? So understanding the physiological, scientific terminology and explanations for why you smoke too much, why you overeat, why you can't put the bottle down, it's helpful to a certain degree, but you can only use that information so long before eventually the habit just comes up and it overtakes you, because usually these behaviors are unconscious. So think about this. The science is conscious. The understanding of neurotransmitters, of, like I just said, the science is very cerebral. It's conscious. It's at the top. It's higher functioning thinking. But most of our behavior is actually pushed through from unconscious behavior. The lower parts of our mind, the deeper parts, the more animalistic and instinctive aspects of our mind. That's why we overeat. Not because we don't know the science, and when we learn that, oh, actually, this burrito is gonna increase my caloric intake by this amount, and the only reason why I'm doing it is because dopamine is being released in my brain, and blah, blah, blah. The Chipotle burrito is still gonna fucking slap, and you're still gonna eat it. It doesn't matter that you know that it's releasing dopamine and that's why you're doing it, or because you are hungry, but you don't need to eat that much because they're able to work with your brain chemistry. It doesn't matter that you know this information, you're still gonna do the behavior. That's why, despite all the science that we've had on habit science, We still have lots of addicts and lots of social media addiction, right? Screen addiction, constantly distracting ourselves. Our addictions, our ADHD, our inability to focus and to direct our will and behavior is becoming less and less powerful and less ubiquitous. Less and less people are able to direct themselves under their own volition, even though the science is getting better, believe it or not. Okay, number 2, you need to be willing to die. Another way of thinking about this is transformation, because what is transformation? Death and rebirth. Seems a little bit hyperbolic, but the point I'm making is that you need to be able to let go of your current identity that is attached to a certain behavior, that is playing out a certain narrative, to flip the script and to change where you go moving forward. You can't be the same person doing a different behavior. The behavior itself is going to change you, but also you will have to change to continue the behavior over time, to truly transform. Because then it's gonna feel fake, it's gonna feel surface. You're only doing the behavior because you know that it's bad for you and you know the physiology and the anatomy and the neurochemistry, but eventually your body, your unconscious is gonna take over, because we're not 100% conscious beings unless you're enlightened, but there's no way that you're enlightened watching this video. So for all of you actually watching this video, not in an ashram in the middle of the, I don't know, freaking Buddhist temple in India or Nepal, for you guys watching this video, most of your actions are unconscious. And so it's only a matter of time where that science starts to leave your brain, the dopamine, the chemistry, all that stuff starts to fleet out of your mind. You forget about hacking the habits, and a motherfucker just wants a cookie. Right? You just want a cookie. I'm sorry, but it's the science is not gonna help you in that instance when you're really, really craving something. Sex, cigarettes, porn, social media, relationships, anything that has become obsessive and destructive in your life to a certain level. So how can you practice these mini deaths, right? The current version of yourself needs to die to step into a new version of yourself that actually has the habits and lives out the habits that you want to be manifesting in your life or want to continue and persist. You need to learn how to die a little bit. And just some quick minor things, tangible, practical things you can do to practice these death and rebirth cycles. The most lower level, say tier 1, is cold showers. When you're in that cold shower, the water hits you, it's very painful, and you have to go somewhere else. So your ego is shouting at you like, why are you fucking doing this to me? Why are you putting me in this very, very uncomfortable situation? And it allows you to kind of disconnect from the physical suffering, the physical discomfort that you're feeling at a physiological level, and allows you to go somewhere else and then come back after it's done. So that's good practice. Next tier is fasting. When I mean fasting, I mean not like intermittent fasting. I'm talking about 48-hour to 72-hour fast, where you only drink water and perhaps electrolytes and sugar if you need it. Or sorry, not sugar, salt if you need it. Electrolytes and salt and water for 2 to 3 days straight, no food, nothing else. That's gonna make you feel this disconnection. You're gonna be able to kind of start burning off things that you've been feeding by eating every day and constantly consuming calories, constantly feeding things. Literally parts of your body die, right? There's a lot of parts of your body that have not been recycled that start to recycle when you fast. And so this is another good form of practice of transformation, death and rebirth, inhibiting your desires, letting go of your ego, and surrendering to the process of just not eating and feeling the hunger, feeling the discomfort, going through it, not running away from it, but going through the pain and discomfort, dying a little bit and coming back rejuvenated, refreshed, and a better version of yourself every time. Finally, psychedelics. In this particular instance, I'm talking about ayahuasca, psilocybin, San Pedro, plant medicines. I ain't really fucking with LSD personally. Molly is more of just fun. I don't really look at it as a death and rebirth unless you overdose, but let's not do that. So synthetic psychedelics, I'm not really talking about. I'm more so talking about plant medicines that take you through this process of essentially rewiring your brain, if you want to talk about it technically, rewiring the default mode network and giving you an ability to increase your neuroplasticity to produce different neural pathways in the brain. An example being that psychedelics are like snow, right? During your lifetime, you say you're sledding, or let's use skiing, that's a little bit, skiing, snowboarding, you have these certain divots. People will, ski down the same hill, and eventually you'll have these divots that keep going deeper and deeper and deeper because they're snowboarding or skiing in the same spots. And then psychedelics add snow to it, fresh powder, so then you have the choice, the ability to choose a different path more easily than you would be without them. And this is because there is a death and rebirth process with psychedelics. Now, in a lot of places they're illegal, so, fasting, cold showers, probably a better option. Also, a little bit less mind altering, and there are risks when it comes to psychedelics, so just keep that in mind. But these are 3 options that you can take to go through this death and rebirth cycle, to practice this, to fundamentally change yourself at a deeper level. So it's not just all up here, all this science, all this sitting in a classroom trying to learn about, what does love mean in a classroom? Watching a YouTube video on sex and love and thinking that you have the same experience, or thinking that you're gonna be able to go into the sack and actually perform properly. Like, no, you gotta fucking do it. You gotta get in there. You can't just sit in a classroom and learn about it. You can't just sit in a classroom and know what it feels like to fast for 48 hours. You can learn all the physiology all you want, but that shit goes out the door when you're on hour 72 and you want to freaking eat a horse. Reality experience will always trump surface level scientific education, left brain thinking, blah, 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 blah. Finally, you need a powerful why narrative. So another thing that the science is lacking is that the reason why you want to change the behavior is because obviously you're going to have, I want to be healthier, or I want to attract a partner, or look better, or feel better, or live longer, right? But what's really, really important is that you implement this why into a story, into a narrative, a flowing narrative, which I don't really see being talked about in things like Atomic Habits or The Power of Habit, or whatever these other, conventional, really popular habit transformation, behavior transformation outlets are, mediums are, is human beings, we respond best to narratives. That's why Hollywood is popular. That's why stories are popular. That's why mythology has been carried out for thousands of years, is because that is what resonates with us. When we can have a cohesive story, we can store more information in symbolic language and also stories and narratives. So create a narrative, a story about why you went through what you did, learning the story of your life, and then how you're changing it. So an example could be, I've been overeating. I want to stop overeating. I went through this experience of, suffering and trauma, and I've probably been using food. I've been using food to suppress that, to comfort myself and to feel better about this part of myself that has been so wounded. I'm using food to numb it. But it's time to face myself, let go of the crutch, and go through that death and recycle process, or death and rebirth process. And at the other end, I'm going on this hero's journey. I'm becoming better. I'm making myself better so I can make the world better. I'm doing what I need to do as an individual, sovereign human being to make this crazy fucking world a little bit better. Doing the work on myself to help my family, my friends, my coworkers, and society as a whole. Seeing the bigger picture, seeing how you fit into the flow of life, and watching how your story is being written in real time, consciously now. Not from a scientific standpoint, but from a creative, spiritual, emotional standpoint. Now, this could be a little bit difficult or a lot to take in all at once, but if you resonate with what I'm saying, if you feel like a lot of the science and a lot of the jargon is a little bit too much surface level for you. Maybe not for everyone, but I found that when we go inside of ourselves, we learn where the behavior is rooted, we solidify our why and create a cohesive and understandable narrative of why we're doing the behavior, what we need to do to change it, and then taking actions in the real world to change it, to start rewriting our story and going through that transformation, death, and rebirth process. Life gets better. And I gave an example here too, which I totally forgot about. And my drawings are actually getting pretty good. So, I mean, appreciate it. I'm using some like different strokes. So cheers, right? But a caterpillar, right? Imagine trying to tell a caterpillar or giving a caterpillar Atomic Habits or one of these science habit books or podcasts and telling it about how their physiology changes and this is why they need to go into a cocoon and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, the caterpillar's like, dude, I'm just transforming. They didn't need to think about it. It just does it. It just is. It transforms at the deepest level of its being. It's chilling as a caterpillar, trying not to get squashed or eaten by a bird, goes into the cocoon to go through that process, and then it comes out a butterfly. A beautiful flying butterfly that is more free, also still might die from birds, but you know, life happens, shit happens. The point being is that you need to go through a transformation. You can't just read about it. Caterpillar can't understand what it's like to be a butterfly just by sitting in a classroom and reading about what it's like to be a butterfly. It might be able to learn how to be a better butterfly when it's a butterfly, but it needs to transform. Not up here, but in here, everywhere, not just here. So anyway, if you resonated with the message, if you understand what I'm talking about when it comes to the narrative and the inner transformations on a deeper level, less mind and more body, emotional, spiritual, I have a transformation guide to help you transform your bad habits into healthy habits. You can get the link down in the description below. And if you want to work with me one-on-one to start changing your behavior, turning bad habits into healthy habits, creating a narrative and understanding your purpose and creating a larger why in the grand scheme of the universe and things that involve you in society and the world, you can also sign up for one-on-one transformation sessions down below, link in the description. I appreciate your time. Cheers.